Welcome back to the build. In this segment of this project, get the chassis to a point of being able to be rolled around. I think I'm going to start with first before I put the motor in it. I got it hung over the chassis. I thought, well, let's get the mounts for the swing arm attached to the chassis, built onto the chassis. As well as you have to flip the frame over to, do a final weld on the parts, and with the engine there, that'd be a little more complicated than I wanted to deal with. That's gonna be a little more heavier than I really want to deal with. So let's start with that. Let's get the frame up on the bench and start putting together some sort of a mount for that swing arm to attach to the actual frame. Need to bend a piece of flat stock into some sort of a radius. This is what I do. This is an old roller from a treadmill. Use whatever size die you want for whatever size you're bending. This is how I do it. There you go. Nice radius bend. I just cut it back off the tube and finish up its design and shape and edges and corners and length and diameter and everything else. Alright, so one of my tacks broke loose over here on the swing arm, but that's what the clamp is for. But got the axle in there, got the bearings in there. You can see kind of I had to put a little sleeve in there between the bearing and the actual swing arms. It's I think it's a 2-inch outer diameter bearing, and it's obviously a metric swing arm. So just filled in with a little bit of a sleeve I had made on that roller, and all we're going to do now is took some measurements. It looks good. It's all squared up. It's obviously nice and free here. So what we're going to do now is we'll final weld the swing arm together, clean this up, and final weld the swing arm back together again. And then we'll get the swing arm mounted on the frame. Alright, we're gonna kind of got ourselves a little bit of a air quote jig set up here to hold the frame height to the point where I want the swing arm mounted to. So I like where that's at there. So I'm just going to cut some brackets. You can obviously hear back there. Bandsaws going. We're cutting some bracketry to actually create a pivot point for the swing arm. So we'll get those cut, shaped, drilled, and we'll have to clean up the back of the frame just a little bit, make sure it's a nice flush spot for everything to mount to, and weld it up. Weld the swing arm attached. Alright, let's get some bolts. Fit inside that sleeve. Sleeve will fit in here. So, yeah, we'll pick some bolts up, and then we can get this bolted to the bolted to the swing arm, and then we'll get this welded to frame. Brackets are built, in place. I'll take a few measurements, make sure it's square on the frame, clamp it in tight, and then we'll tack those into place, and then we'll have the swing arm attached. All right, locked in. Let's weld this thing up. Okay, we'll flip it over and tack the other side, and then we'll work on getting the shock stuff attached. So this is what we got for the shock mounting. Just machined this down a little bit, and narrowed this up a little bit, took the block out of here, the pivot point here, picture up here of what it used to look like, and I'll just machine out a sleeve that'll fit inside there, that'll carry the shock bolt, and then we'll just build ourselves a little bracket up there, hold the top part, and then we'll consider it having rear suspension. All right, there you go. Tacked up the upper mount, lower mount's in place. So that'll hold the load, so we can actually put it on the ground. Well, we're ready to put back wheels on it and see how the ride height is. But first, we're going to have to deal with this issue here without these caps. I'll have to get those get on the mill and actually make a set of caps and get the wheel locked in there solid. Then we can put the whole unit on the ground and set the motor in it. See what it does, see how it sits. So here's how I created these hubs. These are just old trailer hubs that were laying around that happened to match these wheels that I found and wanted to use for the trike. So all I did was I ordered these. They're called they're weld-on collars for sprockets. So normally you'd have a sprocket that would sit here and you'd weld it to this collar here, and I just ordered it with the 1¼ inch shaft to sit over my shaft. And I just took these. Well, here's what I actually ordered. Was these right here. I'll put a link in the description. But I took these and just sent them through my little mini lathe and turned them down so that this fits inside the original spot where the race was, bearing races on both sides. And then all I do is just slide it together and then weld them together. Here's the first one I did. It's already tacked together. Obviously I'll final weld it with the TIG for strength, and that's how to make up my hubs. And they're on a keyway, so they're plenty strong. Hopefully, we'll find out. That's how I did that. All right, there we go. Clamped it, tacked into place. Like I said, I'll weld it up solid once it's validated that everything's going to work. Try to avoid final welding stuff before absolute confirmation that it's complete and right. Spent way too many years of cutting large amounts of weld off of something because it didn't work before I verified it. So go ahead and get this thing down on the ground and start mocking up the rolling chassis. We're back on the ground. We'll let's get the front tire on it. All right, back tire's next. All right, it's on its wheels. So let's get the handlebars on it. Well, there you go. We do have a rolling chassis now. Suspension is there and bouncy, which is good. So next, let's make the motor run. Let's do that next. Doesn't leave a whole lot left to get the motor to run, carb, ignition, such like that. The gas is gonna be the biggest problem. I cut it apart to use it for another project, and obviously now I gotta weld it back together again. So it holds gas. So that'll close out this video. Next one we'll make this thing run. Thanks for watching. See you soon.